Well, Frank Frangie, I can't believe only 2 more weeks of the college football season, and then we're talking about conference championships and the playoffs. I can't believe we've been doing this for 12 weeks now. Where's the time gone?
College football goes fast, doesn't it? The NFL takes a long time because they're in camp in July and they play 17 weeks and there's 3 preseason weeks and then the playoffs. Man, college football starts and ends, Alessandro. You're exactly right. It seems like yesterday we were getting set for those Labor Day games, and the next thing you know, it's almost over.
Okay, well, we have to talk about the Florida Gators. What a huge win against LSU this past weekend, but then they have to turn around and play Ole Miss this week. But first, let's talk about just that ginormous win against the Tigers. Billy Napier, what an outstanding job by him and DJ Lagway.
I will tell you this. I really think in the last month or so, Florida's turning the corner. The Texas game was an outlier. They didn't have a quarterback and they got rolled. But if you look at the other games, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, they won 2. They barely lost the other 2 against then top 5 teams. They found something. They're far from home, but I think that was a gigantic win because Billy needed to win one, Alessandra, against a big-time coach, against a big-time blue blood program. He was close against Tennessee and Georgia. They beat Kentucky, but that's not a blue blood program. He beat Brian Kelly and LSU, a team that has been in the top 10, 15 for years now. That was a big win. His fan base saw him win a big game. You're seeing it on the recruiting trail. Give Scott Strickland credit. When Scott Strickland came out and said, listen, we're keeping our guy. For better or worse, we're keeping our guy. That changed everything. Recruits are starting to come. They won a big game. They're far from perfect. Look, LSU snapped it twice as many times as Florida did, but they found a way to win. Lagway made enough big plays, and there's some positivity in that Gator program for the first time in a long time.
We could talk about the offense and Lagway and just how good they are. But the defense, I remember in the beginning of the season, we were talking about how bad the defense was. Completely different story by the end of the season. They're 5-5 now. They just need one more win to get into a bowl game. Ole Miss is going to be a tough one, but do you think they're able to beat FSU and then, have a bowl game to get ready for in December?
Yeah, I do, Alessandra. First of all, the defense you talked about. Think about this. LSU had allowed 6 sacks all year long, and Florida sacked them 7 times. There's some good young players. They found themselves defensively. Now they're 5-5. I'll tell you this about the Ole Miss game. I think Ole Miss is going to beat Florida, but I wouldn't count it yet. Ole Miss has lost 2 games to Kentucky and LSU. Florida beat both of those teams. The game's in the Swamp. It's already sold out. 90,000 are going to be there plus. So I wouldn't count that one yet. But, yeah, even if they don't win that game, they should beat Florida State. You never know. It's a rivalry game. That'd get them to 6 wins, and I think in prime position maybe to come here to the Gator Bowl. I think they've got a chance at the Gator Bowl or the Outback Bowl. But I think if they get to that 6-win total, that's 15 more days of practice for DJ Lagway. That's something to trump when you're on the recruiting trail, which seems to be going very well for them. Yeah, I think they're going to get to a bowl, and I think that's progress if you think about where they started the season, what a difficult schedule they had.
Okay, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs now. They just had another a big win against Tennessee this past weekend. They're hosting UMass, which will be an easy game, and then they have Georgia Tech next week.
Georgia said, all you people who think we're done and the shine has come off and we're not good anymore, Tennessee came in there and found out. Georgia, that was Georgia football. Tough, fast, physical. I thought Carson Beck played the best game he's played in 2 months. That was Georgia saying, don't write us off just yet. We're still the best team going. That was a big, tough, hard-nosed victory for Georgia, and all of a sudden they're back in. Now, look, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, all the teams with a couple losses now, the margin of error is over. They've got to keep winning, but my guess is those teams will keep winning. Big win for Georgia. They earned that thing. Georgia now will finish 10-2. There's no doubt in my mind.
And finally, we got to talk about Florida State. They're coming off their bye week. They're hosting Charleston Southern this weekend, which, you would think at the beginning of the season would be an easy game for them. Maybe not. They haven't even scored 3 touchdowns in a game. They don't have coordinators, but now even worse is that they're losing even more recruits. It just seems like there is no light at the end of the tunnel in Tallahassee.
They got to stop the bleeding. Hopefully they beat Charleston Southern. That's a team they should beat. And then the Gators come in. Now, look. The Gators are better than FSU, but they're still going to come in as a 5 or 6 loss team. So Florida State's telling themselves they can save their season sort of by winning that game. But right now, you got to stop the bleeding. They're losing recruits left and right. He's got to rebuild that staff. Alessandro, this is going to be a really important offseason for Mike Norvell. He's not getting fired, but he's got to find a way, man, to get portal guys and to stem the tide a little bit. This is one of the most disappointing seasons for a football team that I've covered in my lifetime. I can never remember a team going 13-0 in the regular season one year and 1 in whatever they are this year, 1-9. It's a win this week, at least get the feeling of winning, and then get ready for the Gators. But they got to stop the bleeding. You mentioned about recruits. They're losing recruits. It's been a tough go for the Noles. It really has.
Well, Frank, I can't wait to speak to you next Tuesday when we get to preview the rivalry games. I've always said every Thanksgiving I love to work because that means that we get to preview the best week of college football, which is rivalry week. So I can't wait to talk to you next week. But Frank, thank you so much, and thank you for watching Campus Corner.